Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and this is a live Crosstalk Q&A. I hope you guys are able to join. You should get a notification. If you haven't received a notification about this and you missed it, you're watching it after the fact, there's a little icon you can click down below to enable notifications so that you won't miss any of these live streams. I'm going to be trying to be doing them a little bit more often than I typically have. So, welcome. Looks like people are already starting to join. Corey, Michael, welcome. Carter, welcome. All right, guys, so I wanted to start off with just some basic Q&A, and I've got about 5 or 6 questions here ready to go, and I'm just going to go through those like I do in my normal Q&A videos, but if you have questions separate from these Q&A questions, we're going to address those in the chat after the fact, and yeah, any questions you have, let me know. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch over to my desktop view. Let me know also, guys, of course, as always, if the audio is crappy for some reason, please tell me. Good evening from England, David Sermon. All right, and from Sweden. I've got a new view here, by the way, too, so you guys can see the chat a little bit easier. I am starting to figure out OBS as I go, so we'll have this chat view as well. And, oh, audio is good in Vegas. Oh, I hope it's not too hot out there in Vegas. I know Phoenix, for those of you not in the U.S., Phoenix, Arizona, and I think areas like Vegas have been receiving ridiculously hot temperatures. We're talking 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's been apparently very hot in the UK as well, with the heat wave going through there. So I hope you guys are all staying cool. That's the nature of the game with summertime, I suppose. All right, so let's get into some of these questions. The first question comes from Christopher Jones, and this is on the complete Unify setup start to finish. And Christopher says, excellent video, Chris. Thank you very much. Question, I know it may be simple, and guys, there's never, you know, simple questions, right? If you don't know something, you don't know it. Go ahead and ask on the comments. I am new to Unify stuff. If you can possibly, but can you possibly do or tell us how to do the exact same setup without the cloud key? I have someone that sets up his, up using the controller on a Linode server. Linode, I don't know how you pronounce that. Okay, so literally from this video, it's the exact same thing if you don't have a cloud key. You just need to have Unify controller somewhere, preferably on the same LAN to make things easier, but that can be a Windows PC, a Mac PC, you could put it on a Linux PC, or you could do what I do, which is I have Amazon AWS, which hosts my Unify controller. That adds a little bit additional complexity because you're having to set and form all of the devices out to a cloud-hosted Unify controller, but it's literally, the rest of the video is exactly the same. Once all your devices are in Unify and connected, they are all exactly the same. Linode is like AWS, says Hector. Okay, thank you very much for that, Hector. Appreciate it. Okay, so Christopher Jones, hopefully that answers your question. Let's move on to the next one. By the way, guys, also on this live stream, I'm going to be giving away some sets of rack studs. Okay, so after we do these questions, we're going to do a couple of giveaway questions, and the first person in chat to answer correctly my 2 questions will get 16 rack stud sets, basically. These are the blue version that fit better in the thicker racks, but they gave me a whole bag of these things for free to test out. So I've still got like all of these left. So as I do these live streams, I will be giving away just basically packs of 16 set of these, so you can get 4 servers plugged in with the rack studs. Just send them to Hector. It doesn't work that way, Hector. All right, so let's go to the next question. Okay, so this question comes from Steve Smith. You have the untagged. How many tagged VLANs are supported on the M5? No wireless AC. So I don't know exactly what he means by no wireless AC, but the way that VLANs work in the NanoStation, and by the way, I did a video called NanoStation VLANs, you should check that out, is that there's a setting in the VLAN, I forget what the exact setting is, I'd have to go back and refer to my own video for that, but there's a setting in the NanoStation that basically allows you to determine whether or not you're passing tagged VLAN traffic along with the untagged VLAN traffic. Okay, so if that setting is on, then it all depends on the switch port that the sending side of the NanoStation is plugged into. right? So whatever you have set on that switch port, what VLAN is untagged, and what tagged VLANs you have on that port, that's what's going to be sent across the NanoStation. It doesn't care what those VLANs are. You just set that setting to allow the VLANs, and they will all pass through. Chris, what happened to your web page? I don't know. Did it go? You know what? That's interesting. So my website is up. You guys can see it right here. I've got it online. It is up and running, https, crosstalksolutions.com. Though I have one of the guys that helps me out, Caleb. Hi, Caleb, if you're watching this. He tells me that he can't get to my web page. So if you guys cannot pull up crosstalksolutions.com, let me know. I'm not too concerned about it because my whole website is in the process of being rebuilt, and so as part of that process, I'm sure it'll get fixed, whatever the problem happens to be. Okay, so that's it for the VLAN question. Let's move on to the next one here. Am I going to discuss edge router switch versus UniFi today? I certainly can. I wasn't planning on it, but I don't really have any plans for what I'm discussing today other than these few questions that I'm going through and the contest that I'm going to do. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Good question, by the way. So here, let me switch to my chat view. Here we go. So Steve asked, does the UniFi USG have SIP ALG turned on by default? I'm setting up a voice system with Nextiva and need to make sure that it's off. So yes, very important. Very important on the anytime you're doing a VoIP deployment, especially if you're utilizing a hosted VoIP deployment, you want to make sure that SIP ALG is turned off on your firewall. I've never had a problem with the USG. Though I don't know for sure. There's no explicit SIP ALG setting in the USG. It might be a back-end setting or something that you have to do in the JSON file. But I've never had a problem with either the edge router or the USG as far as running voice over IP through them and it handling NAT correctly for voice over IP or for SIP packets. Okay, one other question from Dave Gooch here. Please, 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 can you do a video on OpenVPN client on USG? Pulling my hair out. So absolutely frickin' not. I will not do that video because I would be pulling my hair out too. If you need OpenVPN and you have a USG, get a different firewall. All right, USG unfortunately does not do well with like your private internet access type OpenVPN stuff or whatever. All right, so USG is good for very vanilla deployments. When you start getting into anything beyond just a simple site-to-site VPN between multiple USGs, go for the edge router. You're going to have a much easier time. Okay, let me get back to this question, and then I will come back to more questions from you guys in just a second here. Okay, so David Kipatelli writes, this is also on the UniFi, this is on the UniFi guest network with captive portal video. Just curious, do you need a USG in order for the captive portal feature to work? I'm using Edge Router Lite instead, and my control panel, my CP, captive portal, doesn't seem to work as it never pops up asking for the password. By the way, I love the channel. Thank you very much. Keep up the great work, and I really appreciate the excellent content. Okay, so you do not need the USG for the captive portal to work. All you need is UniFi. So UniFi is what determines where the UniFi is the captive portal. Okay, so as long as the packets can get to UniFi, which in most cases should be on the same LAN, for instance on a cloud key or on a Windows or Mac or Linux PC, that type of thing, then especially with your captive portal, it's important to have that stuff on the LAN. Go watch that video and you'll see the problems I ran into having a captive portal on my Amazon. Okay. So hopefully that answers that question. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Okay, so here's another question on the complete UniFi setup start to finish video. Kevin Chambers says, thank you for this end-to-end config video, Chris. How would you change the config if using OpenDNS for all traffic and also just for a specific network? So I wouldn't change the config very much. The only thing you need to do, now I don't use OpenDNS, but as I understand it, you basically just have to set, let's see, I don't use OpenDNS, but DNS works by, they give you DNS servers, right? So you connect out to DNS servers, and those DNS servers determine what you can and can't see, basically. Okay, so so how does it work then for utilizing the complete UniFi setup start to finish? Basically, when you're setting up your DHCP server, either for every DHCP server for every network that you're running, or for individual DHCP servers for individual networks. You give the open DNS IP addresses as the DNS servers that are allocated to clients in those networks. And that, as far as I understand, that's how it works. Again, though, I've never really used OpenDNS. I just with my basic understanding of how I believe it works. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Thank you very much, by the way, for the super chat from Riley to Anto. €2. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. By the way, guys, super chats are on. If you have a question that you're dying to get answered and you are willing to pay for it, give me a super chat and I will absolutely answer every single super chat question that comes in. Okay. And yes, I do watch Funhouse. There's my Funhouse shirt. So absolutely. I love those guys. All right. So let's get back to the questions here. Chad Steffen writes, what about this type of setup? This is on the Ubiquiti Mesh Wireless. What about this type of setup for, say, a rural campground where only the one building on the whole campground has internet service? Doable. And I would say absolutely. So that is almost a perfect example of where you would want to use mesh networking. It works very, very well in a campground type scenario. Whoa, look at that chat. What is that? Cajun 78. I don't have any idea what that is. That's very weird looking. All right, well, listen, don't spam in the chat too much, Cajun 78, or I will block you right out. And yes, Hector, you're exactly right. That is what the mesh is made for. A campground scenario is a perfect example of where you would want to use mesh wireless. You start with your internet connection and a good solid access point like the UAP ACHD or one of the Mesh Pros, and then you fan that out to more Mesh Pros or more of the standard mesh access points, and that is a really cool setup. Okay, thanks for the question, Chad. Appreciate that. Finally, question from, oh boy, I'm going to totally butcher this name, but Olatunde Oyabanjo. Sounds about right. Okay, well, Olatunde writes, thanks for the video, but I want to ask, what is the roam range or maximum distance of the handset to the base before call quality starts to drop? And this is on my Yealink W52P unboxing and setup video. The Yealink W52P is a decked wireless SIP phone. It's my absolute go-to phone for any customer that needs a cordless handset because it works very, very well. It uses decked. Every Wi-Fi phone that I've tried to use sucks. They just don't connect to Wi-Fi very well. And this phone works awesome. But what is the maximum distance of the handset? That's going to totally depend on the environment that you put it in and the placement of the base, right? So think of it just like any sort of wireless deployment. If it's, you know, around a bunch of equipment that's blocking the signal, essentially like in a Faraday cage, it's going to have a much shorter signal distance than if you've put it in a nice wide open area. The nice thing about the Yealink W52P, though, is that the base is separate from the handset, so you can put the base in a nice centralized location and, you know, get a signal out as strong as you can, and then put the handsets wherever they're most convenient. Another nice thing about the W52P is that they make a wireless decked repeater for that device. So you can put in the decked base station, and then somewhere within range of that decked base station have a repeater, and now you've got both of those up and running, and the phones can wirelessly travel between those, or seamlessly travel between those two points. Now, the other cool thing about the W52P is that you can have up to 5 handsets per decked base. So you just buy the decked base, it comes with one handset, and then you can add on up to 4 additional regular cordless handsets. And those cordless handsets can all be the same extension, or they can all be different extensions, or any combination thereof, right? You could have 3 that are the same extension and then 2 individual extensions, however you want to set them up. I just love that phone. The Yealink W52P is a really, really great phone. Okay, so Riley, again with the super chat. Thank you so much. Look at that. You gave me another 18 euros. Sorry, thought that was 20 euros. Great videos. They are a big help. Well, thank you very much for that, Riley. I absolutely appreciate it. Okay, so let me answer a few questions here, and then we will give away our rack studs. Now, we'll talk about those in a second. I don't want to get into that yet. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, Jay bought a W52P from me, and he said it worked great. So yeah, those phones are really awesome. I absolutely love them. Wi-Fi Hector says Wi-Fi phones are garbage unless you have a really plentiful access point network. So you're exactly right. That's the main problem with Wi-Fi phones, especially the one that I did the review on, the Incom ICS something or other. I did a video on one Wi-Fi phone at some point, and it was just absolutely terrible. It would keep disconnecting from Wi-Fi, and then you'd have to, use the little touchpad to like enter in your Wi-Fi password into the phone again, almost every day. And it was just a ridiculous phone. I did not like that one bit. Now, I have heard, speaking of Wi-Fi phones, I have heard that the SpectraLink phones are quite good. However, I have never personally tested one because those phones are like $700 or something, right? So it's like a $700 Wi-Fi phone. So I don't have customers that typically spend that kind of money on phones. If you absolutely need a Wi-Fi phone and it's super mission critical, take a look at the SpectraLink phones. I don't have an opinion on them one way or the other. I have just heard that they're a very reliable phone when it comes to Wi-Fi. But ultimately, it does come down to the quality of your wireless network, right? So it always comes down to that. Okay, so super chat from DeVirgo77. How to get Captive Portal to work when your customer is on a different VLAN from the guest VLAN. Keep up the great work, Chris. Thank you very much for that. That's a good question. How do you get the Captive Portal to work when your controller is on a when your controller is on a different VLAN from the guest VLAN? It works very seamlessly because assuming that your controller is at least accessible by all of the devices, the access points and whatnot, it will redirect. So Unify will redirect to the Captive Portal regardless of what VLAN you're connecting to. So it doesn't really care. I think that's the question you were asking. Here's the thing, though. I'm not a big fan of the Unify Captive Portal. I mean, it works. You can kind of get it to work. But even in the deployment that I did with that customer that I did the video on, the Unify Guest Portal video, we implemented that with the Guest Portal. And then there's some phones, like iPhones, for instance, that when you connect to the Captive Portal, it doesn't like automatically redirect as well as it should. I think Android phones are a lot better about that, but iPhone devices don't always redirect very well, and a lot of people don't know, well, you got to open the browser and try to go to the default gateway of that network, and usually that's going to bring up the Captive Portal, right? Most people don't know how to do that stuff. So having a Captive Portal that doesn't work that well is just frustrating for customers. So if you're going to do a Captive Portal, just make it an open network. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of advice for you because I just personally don't like implementing them because I don't feel that they work very well. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. And if your question flies by, guys, and I miss it, then just go ahead and ask again. I love the Yealink W52P better than the Polycom Wi-Fi phone. Would I be better off with DECT? You know, again, it always depends on your situation, but DECT, in my opinion, is always going to be better than Wi-Fi phones. Okay, SpectraLinks allow real handover from DECT base to DECT base. That's tricky. That makes it so expensive. You can override provided you're on the good portal. Okay, sorry, these are going by so fast, guys, so I'm trying to get to them. Here's an easy one. Chris, who is your ISP? I have Charter Cable. Hi, Chris. Hairpin NAT doesn't work under guest network by default on USG. Any way to do this? Maybe a video used guest just to make an easy isolated network. Doin DNS name useless locally. I have never tried. I've never had a problem with Hairpin NAT, even with guest networks. So I don't know. I'd have to look at that specific situation. It seems to work okay for me, but I also don't set up a lot of environments where Hairpin NAT is something that's necessary. I try to avoid it, as a matter of fact. Okay, have you gotten your hands wet? Hey, Hugo, how's it going, man? Have you gotten your hands wet with free PBX 14? So, a little bit. Yeah, I installed it when they first released it, and it worked. It installed just fine. Actually, when I did the video where I was trying to install free PBX on a shuttle PC, that video I used FreePBX14, and FreePBX13 did not install on the Shuttle PC, but FreePBX14 installed fine on the Shuttle PC. I'm guessing because it's CentOS 7 instead of CentOS 6, and it had updated drivers for the Shuttle components. Okay, so let's see. Video request, destination NAT configuration on edge routers. So Kendall, if you guys are a fan of my channel, then you're probably also a fan of Willie Howe. Willie did a number of videos on DNAT way back in the day, I think before he was even showing his face and voice on the videos. And I don't remember if he ever revisited those, but you can go back. Those are still up-to-date videos in terms of the configuration of DNAT has not changed since he did those videos. So go check out Willie Howe's channel and just search DNAT and you will find some good videos on that topic. Also a question, in your experience, have you ever had... Oh, sorry. I'll get to your super chat in just 1 second. Thank you very much for that. Destination, your experience, have you ever had issues with airtime fairness and Unify APAC Pro with over 30 connected devices? So, have I ever had a problem with that? I don't think so. And if you're talking about airtime fairness as a actual feature being used, I typically don't turn it on. I just let the access points handle everything themselves. Keep in mind, guys, and this is something that a lot of people, I think, have a misconception about as far as things like zero-touch handoff, airtime fairness, what's the other one? Band steering, right? So these more advanced features of access points that are supposed to make them function better for your clients are still dependent on the client, okay? So when you have a problem with an iPhone roaming back and forth between multiple access points, it's the iPhone's fault in most cases, right? The iPhone's antenna doesn't switch as from access point to access point as quickly as it should, or it doesn't realize that there's a stronger access point with the same SSID within range, and it doesn't switch. So it tries to hold on to the one that it's connected to as much as possible until you finally get far enough away that it's like, okay, I can't hold on to that anymore, and then it switches. Getting back to, hopefully that helps, by the way, and I've thought about doing a video on that topic because I think that's a pertinent topic. Is the Sangoma Endpoint Manager a good idea when you have more than 20 phones? The Sangoma Endpoint Manager is a good idea when you have more than 5 phones, okay? It's just a good idea, period. And if you're using Sangoma phones, keep in mind you don't have to pay for it. So Sangoma phones are by far the best phones to use with FreePBX. And I mean by far the best phones. Okay, I'd like to hear your thoughts on FreePBX 14 as well. So I like FreePBX 14. Now, it's not quite... There aren't a lot of apparent differences in FreePBX 14 when you get into the interface. Most of the changes to FreePBX 14 are in the back end. And when I was at AstraCon last year... Oh, hang on a second here. Willie is hitting me up. Let's see. Willie says, can you give me a little shout out on the live stream? Have peeps go subscribe and enter the giveaway. So, yes, Willie, I will do that. Absolutely. Willie, are you on this live stream or you just saw that I was streaming? Anyways, Willie, come into the live stream and give a shout out to yourself. So I already did give you a shout out, Willie. We talked about your channel, your videos. But yes, Willie, congratulations, my friend. Just hit 10,000 subscribers. So if you guys have not subscribed to Willie's channel, go over there and check it out. He's currently running a giveaway of, I think, a brand new USG or a brand new Edge router. I forget what it is exactly. Okay, so love to hear your thoughts on FreePBX 14. As I was saying a second ago, FreePBX 14, the main differences are in the back end and the efficiencies that they've put in. Now, when I was at AstraCon last year, the devs of FreePBX, really super nice guys, by the way, put up a side-by-side comparison of FreePBX 13 and FreePBX 14, and then they ran commands on this big projector, and you could see how much faster the commands finished in FreePBX 14, but it was like by a magnitude of like 5 to 6x faster. Okay, Charles writes, anything new on the Sangoma front? Yes, coming out very soon. In fact, I have one right here. I don't think I can pick it up. I have a Sangoma S705 telephone that's going to replace the current S700. It's going to be the same exact price point as the S700 when it comes out, but it includes support for the Opus codec, and it includes Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built into the phone. I wouldn't run the phone over Wi-Fi, but it's there if you need it. And Bluetooth, of course, is for Bluetooth headsets to connect directly to the phone. Okay, so let me get back to, I missed a super chat. I want to make sure I don't miss it here. Chris, I have notices. Thank you, by the way, Charter, for this. Carter. Thank you, Carter Grant, for the super chat, $5. Hey, Chris, I've noticed lots of businesses have Cisco and Aerohive. Why do they spend so much money on their networks? Well, that is the question for the ages, isn't it? Why do they spend so much money on their networks? The reason they spend so much money on their networks, and by the way, this is exactly the same as in the PBX world. Why do people spend so much damn money on Mitel and Avaya and Cisco phone systems when free PBX is a wonderful alternative if built correctly? There's the caveat, right? If built correctly, they will be as solid, stable, secure, reliable, and have more features than any of those other platforms. So why would you build on anything else? A lot of it comes down to what people are used to. A lot of it comes down to the marketing name, right? So people know what Cisco is, but they've never heard of this. What's this Ubiquity thing? I've never heard of that, right? So a lot of it comes down to brand recognition, name recognition, and marketing, and just people that just, don't have a lot of IT experience. Maybe they just want to get a project done. So they hire someone, they get a quote, and they say, great, that's fine, just do it, right? So I think a lot of that is what that is all about. Okay, Amanda Newton, I'm pretty sure is spam, so we are going to block this one. In fact, I will report that one. Goodbye, Amanda. Yeah, good Cisco sales reps. Business, in my opinion, it's the old, no one got fired for buying, add well-known brand here. Well, that's true too. Chris, I just joined. Do you have a video about connecting NanoStation with a Unify AP directly? Connecting NanoStation with Unify AP directly. I'm not sure how you mean that. Do you mean like having an access point as the access point and using a NanoStation as a station? Or are you talking about having a NanoStation on the receiving side and then stringing an access point off of it to provide Wi-Fi coverage to the remote side of a NanoStation bridge? I don't know. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm going to scroll down here, guys. Sorry if I missed your questions, but I want to make sure that I keep up. Okay, here we go. Let's see, Jay. I would also add that more people have experience with those brands that are easier to hire people to support. Yes, that is true. Brand recognition. Yes, network admins have spent a lot of money on Cisco certifications. That's true also, Corey. And I still have to do my, certifications are bullshit video. I will be doing that at some point, but I'm going on vacation next week, so it'll be after next week sometime. Okay, Genonias. Hi, Chris. What should the proper VLAN layout be for a USG deployment? I would like to have the following VLANs: management, corporate, guest, VoIP. Well, I mean, that's it. You kind of just said it, right? So management LAN should be the default VLAN. Corporate, guest, and VoIP should all be tagged or untagged VLANs on the ports that you're going out to. So something, in a lot of cases, you're going to have a situation where you've got a person sitting at a desk and they have a VoIP phone and their desktop, and those are on separate VLANs. So in that case, you typically want to have the VoIP network tagged and the corporate network untagged, right? So that way anything you plug into that port will be on the corporate network by default, the corporate VLAN by default, and then the phone, which has the ability to set which VLAN it is, will be on the tagged network. Okay. So, Thomas White, how important is an SBC when installing a Phone System 60 or at home when installing a free PBX in general? Just confused on when I should use one. So, great question. And I just got back from vacation. Did I just get back from vacation? How long ago was I on vacation? Oh, I was in Phoenix for a couple days visiting my dad. My dad lives in Prescott, Arizona, so I did go out to Phoenix for a couple days, but I was kind of working while I was out there, so I didn't consider that a real vacation. Okay, so how important is the SBC? That is a wonderful question. In my experience, and especially in the market that I service, which is the SMB market. Most of my phone systems are between like 10 to like 250 handsets, right? That's sort of all of the phone systems that I do, or most of the phone systems I do fall into that range. I consider that the SMB market for phone systems. I think I've only ever deployed one SBC out of the dozens and dozens of phone system installs that I have done. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. I don't think that SBCs are that necessary, especially today when you have very, very good firewalling built into FreePBX, right? So there's a couple of reasons why you would want to use an SBC. In larger deployments, you would use an SBC for like load balancing between multiple free PBXs in the back end, right? So you could have one major SIP trunk, and then say a call comes in on one DID, we're forwarding it over to free PBX1, and a call comes into a second DID, we're forwarding it over to free PBX2, right? So you could use it that way. It's also good for user proxy, right? So if you have a ton of users out there, which again, this is a situation that I just don't run into that often. If you have a ton of users out there that are, for instance, connecting into the free PBX with soft phones on their cell phones, you don't have the ability to lock down the WAN IPs of every cell phone out there, and they constantly change. So then you might want to use an SBC as sort of an extra line of defense, have your clients register externally to the SBC, and then pass the authorized registrations back to the free PBX. So there's another situation where you might want it. There's a third situation, but again, most of this comes down to like the really high-end install. So if I was doing a 500-seat install where they had multiple redundant SIP trunks and stuff like that, I would probably put in the SBC just to offload some of that processing. There's also a good, if you ever have to do transcoding. So for instance, if you're trying to work with a lot of connections on a pipe that's too small, you might want to do G711 to an SBC, have the SBC do transcoding to G729 out to your provider or something like that. So again, tons of different reasons why you might need to have one. In my experience, I very, very rarely use them. I just quoted one recently for a customer of mine, and I use them so rarely that I actually put in as part of the quote professional services setup of the SBC from Sangoma directly. I know the sales engineers at Sangoma, they're very, very good. They set up SBCs all the time, and since they're much more experienced at doing that than I am, I thought of it as a learning experience for myself as well as best practice setup for my customer to just have Sangoma professional services do the SBC install. Okay, did I miss any super chats? I don't think I did. Let me scroll back up. Yep, Thomas's was the last super chat. Okay, so Pete, how are you? You look great. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. How many bytes are in an IPv6 IP? Thanks, Willie. Willie's now trolling the channel. I gave you a shout out, and now you're trying to troll me with with questions. How many bytes are? I don't know. I'd have to look that up. I do not know that off the top of my head, unless you're referring to my certifications are bullshit comment from earlier. In which case, there's one where if they asked me that on a certification, I would not know that. But again, that's what I'm talking about when I say certifications are BS, because that's something that I don't need to know. And if I do need to know that, I can look it up very easily by using the Googler. Chris, keep up the good job. It helps a lot. Thank you very much. Hector, you told us you were going on vacation in the last video. Oh, yes. Okay, I see what you're saying, Hector. I did say I was going on vacation in the last video. I am not on vacation yet. I leave on vacation actually next Wednesday, and I'll be gone Wednesday through the following Wednesday. Let's do a subscriber meetup in Moscow. That would be fun. Okay, let's see. Do access points have the same SSID to allow devices to switch seamlessly when moving from access point to access point when all the access points are on the same subnet? So it depends, I would guess. It's probably a good idea to have them all be the same SSID, but it also depends on, like, so for instance, if you think about the Unify setup where you've got a single controller that is passing out SSIDs to multiple access points, as opposed to like just buying a bunch of like, you know, TP-Link access points or something that are totally separate devices and then setting up the same access point on each of those. There's I mean, there's not too much difference there, but like it would make a pretty decent difference, at least in the terms of IT administration and probably how well it would work in general. Okay, hey Chris, do any of the UAPs support beamforming, and what's your view of the technology? I don't know. So when it comes to the higher or more technical, like wireless ISP type questions, I've got Brandon, who works with Crosstalk. He's our WISP expert, and I always defer that stuff to Brendan. So Brandon, sorry. I was working with a Brendan yesterday, and then Brandon is the one that actually works for me. So I would defer to Brandon on stuff like that, and I've actually thought about having Brandon on a live stream like this to help answer these types of wireless ISP questions, because he is a super genius when it comes to that stuff. He does all of our wireless installs. Would you do SBC or IPsec? Would you do SBC or IPsec L2TP VPN? Are you talking about in a phone system deployment? I would do the VPN. Typically, I would do the VPN. Thanks, Willie. Okay, so let's see. Where was I? Sorry, I'm losing my place. Okay, good old Google, yes. Einstein once said to never memorize anything you can look up. That's that's a good quote. I had not heard that one before. Half of the hard part is knowing what to Google. You're exactly right. Now, I would agree with that. You know, a lot of it is having base knowledge of things like networking and, like, especially for me, the stuff that I specialize in, free PBX and networking, because if you have to look up a lot of stuff, you're going to just waste a lot of time. But yes, knowing how to precisely Google things and find answers fast is a key component to using Google. Or if you're using like Bing, you have to like go to Bing, type www.google.com, then you want to click on the first result and then type in your search from there. Okay, do you know how to fix the ring group problem in FreePBX? I'm not sure what the ring group problem is. If you want to expand on that, Dan, I will certainly be happy to answer that. Any comments about the Elastic PBX is now 3CX and the info that the owner of 3CX has a big part of Sangoma stock? So your second part of your question, I don't know anything about that. That's news to me that the owner of 3CX has Sangoma stock or anything like that. I really don't know. But any comments about the fact that Elastic is now 3CX, I think it's a little sad that another, decent open source asterisk-based PBX that a lot of people rely on has now switched over to a paid model, right? So all of the old Elastic customers, if they want to upgrade now, maybe they were running fine on the free version of Elastic, they're now going to be forced into something where, oh boy, you get 8 concurrent calls is the max license or something that you get for free, and then beyond that you have to start paying. So I'm not a big fan of that aspect of it, but Elastic in general was kind of a mess. I mean, they had, I don't like Elastic in general. I've played with it, I've used it, but Elastic is one of those applications that tried to put all of your eggs in one basket, and I'm not a fan of doing that just from a redundancy standpoint. I don't want my CRM on my phone system that's also my firewall, right? So I just don't like doing that. Microsoft Edge is the #1 browser for downloading Chrome. Jay, you're probably right. I almost guarantee that you're right about that. That's funny. Okay, so yay for Isabel PBX based on Asterisk being launched this week. I've never heard of Isabel PBX. I've been using Asterisk since 2005, used to configuring text files. Yeah, you don't have to configure text files that much. There are some things that you have to do, like for instance, if you want to be able to dial a conference bridge extension from your IVR in FreePBX, you have to go edit a configuration file to do that. If you're going to install Lenny on FreePBX, you have to edit a configuration file to do that. But beyond those things, I typically don't ever have to go into the configuration files and edit anything directly. Have you ever had a problem when you load music on hold to FreePBX and then the volume goes up even after you edit the volume down? No, I have not had that problem. What could that be? The volume goes up even though you have to edit it down. I don't know. I would think that maybe the transcoding of whatever you're uploading isn't just isn't working properly or something. That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, David, just search YouTube for Crosstalk. You get the answers to most questions. That's correct. Not even Ubiquity and Free PBX questions. You get the answer to most questions. Okay, so I have ring groups. Peter Socket. I have ring groups set up in PBExact setup with a different ringtone, but the phones don't actually use it, even though the logs show the option. S500 phones on PJ-SIP. Any ideas? So I don't have any ideas, Peter. The only thing that I can think of is that it might be an issue with PJ-SIP. I don't use PJ-SIP yet. I am not a fan of it. There's too many weird bugs, and it doesn't interoperate very well with a lot of trunking providers out there. So anytime I set up a new phone system and PJ-SIP is on 5060 and enabled by default, I switch everything back to ChanSIP, and that seems to work very well for most things, right? So I'm a big fan of just do the way that it works really well, right? And then use your experimental time on the side to test things out like PJ-SIP. And I just have not found PJ-SIP to be to the point yet where I would put it into a production environment with a customer. I guess if you had like, why does this say unable to connect to chat? Are you guys unable to connect to chat? Test, test. I'm still streaming. Let me try to close the chat window and bring it back up and see what happens. Sorry guys, this one is not even my problem. This is a YouTube's problem. Pop out chat. Oh, there we go. Now it seems to work. All right, hang on a second. I gotta now fix OBS to look at the correct chat window again. 1 second, guys. Refresh. Okay. No. Of course it goes black. Hang on, let me switch off to this real quick. Sorry, guys. The oh, Amanda's back. Oh, nice. I'll fix that in a second, guys. Let me get my chat going again. Okay, so let me do this one. Oh, now it's working. Okay, now we're good. And Amanda is still here. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to the live stream. We're going to, oops, we're going to go to channel. No. Oh, it won't let me. Now I can't. I certainly don't want to go to Amanda's channel. Now it won't let me block Amanda. Can I block other people? No, I can't. Well, something goofy is going on with chat, guys, so please just disregard all of the sex chats from Amanda. Likely that is just a computer anyways, and we have not gotten to the point where computers are good enough to have sex with yet. So, okay, so let's see. Berman963, getting my Ubiquity broadband enterprise certs because of you. I work for an automation company, so it would be beneficial. All right, well, thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. I think the certs from Ubiquity are a good, solid way to get a strong, foundation in that platform. Absolutely. Willie, I think, has his certs. I don't have any certs in there in Ubiquity. Okay, Joe King. Your channels help a lot. Thank you. Okay, so see if you're still logged in as Crosstalk. I think my chat's working fine, guys. I know it's a little bit delayed, but if there's any problems, just let me know. And someone said, time to discuss Unify versus Edge Router now. Yes, I will discuss that. So I am planning on doing a follow-up to the one of my very popular videos, which is the Edge Router versus USG video. And I did it, I think it's been about a year now. Let me pull it up and see. Let's see, bring up the old YouTubes here. I'll put this in the side for 1 second. YouTube. Edge Router versus USG. Yeah, so my Edge Router versus USG video. Here, I'll put this on this screen. Let me reconfigure my screen a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better. And where's my live chat? Oh, burp, burp. There we go. Put that there. Okay, so OBS. All right. So, yeah, let's see, when did I publish this? May 31st, 2016. Oh, so it's been over a year, It's been about 13 months since I published this video. And this video talked about, I still get comments on this video, by the way, all the time, including this comment here, which I got from Chris, who works, Chris Bulchler, who works for Ubiquity. So he put a lot of interesting information here. And I am planning on doing a follow-up to this video when Ubiquity releases the Unify version that includes user-based radius VPN authentication. I guess that's a conflict. They're going to be they're going to have the ability to do a local radius server so that you can set up per user VPN authentication into the USG. Okay, so right now my stance on USG versus Edge router is just that it 100% depends on the situation. So in a lot of cases these days, I've been deploying USGs. And because, again, keep in mind that my customers, the smaller customers, don't typically have IT staff on site to be able to administer stuff, so I need to do it remotely. So in that regard, USG is heads and tails better than Edge router because I don't have to, like, figure out how to get into their system. It also allows me to do, you know, watch the alerts in Unify and stuff like that. So there's new versions of Unify coming out that once they get to that point where they have that radius authentication, as well as I think they're greatly improving the notification system in Unify. When those two things come out, I will do an update to that video, and I will then give another opinion. At that point, I think it'll be much more, I think it'll be much better for customers at that point than what we have today, because what we have today, unfortunately, is just the straight up USG, and it does have a lot of limitations, such as the inability to connect. Doing the user VPN on a USG is very difficult. You can't do any of the like private internet access type VPNs, which are becoming more popular. Those are very difficult to do. So yeah, it's not quite there yet, though. For customers that have very vanilla deployments, I have no problem using it. All right, let's get back to chats here. Okay, so I saw a couple of super chats. Thank you guys very much for the super chats. Brian Ladd, $1. Been testing Sangoma S500 and Yealink T46 with FreePBX13. Sangoma phones doesn't compare in regards to overall build quality, and the Yealink has much better receiver audio. Have you observed the same thing? So, in my personal opinion, I mean, I like both of those phones. Okay, I sell them all the time. The build quality of the Sangoma phones, I agree, are not quite to the level of the Yealink phones yet. They're getting there. They're doing better all the time. This new version of the S705 I have, as a matter of fact, has much more responsive buttons and stuff like that. However, the increased functionality that you get with Sangoma phones, in my opinion, far outweighs the difference in build quality. And again, this is another video that I've been planning on doing for ages, but just the list of things that you can do with Sangoma phones connected to a FreePBX versus any other phone, where Yealink is actually the second closest, but versus any other phone, Sangoma phones have it hands down. All right, like no comparison at all. Right? It's not even a close race. Okay, so let's see. Carter Grant, thank you very much for the super chat, $1. I certainly appreciate that. Is the Unify router and firewall out of beta? I don't think it is. I don't think it's out of beta yet. My Unify bubbles are very sad now, as are mine. I actually, if you guys see this, see if I can move the camera here. So typically on my desk here, I have my Unify 8 150 watt switch, and I had to give that away to a customer that was in need of it. So I have one on order. I am currently, my bubbles are very sad. Okay, let's see. How did your Unify Enterprise install turn out? It turned out great, actually. That Unify install went very smoothly. Everything got plugged in just fine. The only thing that I'm having trouble with on that install is the cloud key will periodically go offline, and then I have to have them unplug and plug the cloud key back in, and then it comes back up just fine. I'm not sure exactly why that does that. Willie, let me know if you've seen the same type of behavior. But I think if I was going to do it again, I would just buy like a cheap like $300 or $400 Dell PC and then run Unify on that. and have that on the LAN, because I feel like perhaps the size of the deployment and the amount of traffic that's pushing through it is just not quite, the cloud key isn't quite as powerful enough to handle it. So other than that, though, that's the only thing that I would change, besides the fact that, as I explained in that enterprise video, I did the edge router or edge switch XGs, and they now have the Unify fiber switches out, which I would have preferred to do those, but they just weren't available at the time that I built that that whole thing. Axel Musland, $10 super chat, or 10 DKK. What is DKK? Is that German? DKK to USD. See, got to go to the Googler to find out the answer to anything. Danish krone. All right, cool. All right, well, thank you very much for the Danish krone super chat. I certainly appreciate that. Let me go back over here. And Chris Jobson, thank you as well for the super chat. $2 super chat, much appreciated. All right, Jay, are you switching over more to using cloud keys over your AWS instance? I am, actually. I've done a number of cloud keys. The reason that I'm doing that is because it's with the Ubiquiti single sign-on stuff, it's pretty much the same thing to have a cloud key on site versus having my AWS, whereas before that wasn't as possible. And so let's see. What else do I have to say about that? I guess not really. That's really the only reason. And I just like having the local cloud key for customers, especially in the, you know, what if Chris gets hit by a bus scenario and they don't have access to my Amazon AWS, right? So, okay. Do you happen to know if Unify is going to support IPv6? I mean, I imagine they're going to have to support IPv6 in the future at some point. Willie's Skyping me. Yes, I have, if you're using the cloud access. Oh, you're talking about the cloud key going dead. Cloud keys give you the option of transferring ownership to the client if they want it. Yeah, Hector, that's probably a more eloquent way to say what I was trying to say. So, yes, thank you for that. That's exactly right. Oh, phones are ringing. Reject. I forgot to put myself on Do Not Disturb. This phone's ringing too. Reject. Okay, Do Not Disturb. I got phones all over the place. Do you use the stable or beta version of the Unify controller? I always use the stable version when I'm doing client deployments. As a matter of fact, I typically, like on my own Amazon AWS, I don't use the latest and greatest stable version either. I'm usually like 1 or 2 versions back from the most recent stable version. 174 people watching the chat. Thank you guys all very much. I think that's probably the peak we're going to see on this chat. So let's go ahead and do our giveaway. I have 2 sets of 16 rack studs. This will get you 4 servers installed into your rack with these blue rack studs. And so the way that we're going to do this, by the way, totally open to international, guys. I normally don't do international shipping, but this is just a little bag of rack studs, so I have no problem doing international shipping with these. I don't know if there's any difference with these rack studs on like international racks. I have no idea. But if you guys are international, that's fine. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to ask a question into the microphone, and my angry microphone, as I call it. Oh no, this is my happy microphone. He's got the smiley face. I'm going to ask a question into the microphone, and the first person to answer the question correctly, I'm going to write your YouTube username on this bag, and then you will contact me separately to give me your address to where to send these. And you're going to contact me at info@crosstalksolutions.com and just say, hey, I'm so-and-so from YouTube. I won the rack studs. And please be honest, I don't want to get 1,000 people saying the same thing. So, okay. These are, like I said, a bag of 16 rack studs. You guys can try them out for yourself. Thank you, rack studs, for providing these to me. I certainly appreciate it. They sent them to me like overnight shipping when I did that last video. I do not have any Crosstalk stickers for you, Core. I'm sorry about that. I will hopefully have some at some point soon, but for now I do not. Okay, so again, rules of the contest. First person to answer these questions correctly gets wins, and you're just going to answer in chat. Okay. The other rule is you can be international. I'm going to ship them to you. I'm not going to do a lot with the international shipping. If it doesn't get to you internationally, I'm very sorry about that. But I'm just going to throw them, put your address on the box, and take them down to the post office and pay whatever it costs. Okay. Chris should open an international web shop. There are too many viewers from outside the USA. Okay, maybe. There are a lot of people. I appreciate all of my international viewers, and I'm sorry that all of my previous contests have not been open to international, but this one is, even though it's a very small contest. Okay, so without further ado, question number 1. And this will, again, just put the answer to the question into your chat. The first person to get this question right wins the first set of rack studs. Okay, so for those of you who do not know, I also have a second channel, and maybe a third channel coming soon, a second channel called Crosstalk Gaming. And I only have 37 subscribers over there. I've got like less than 300 views because no one watches me on that channel. I just started it a couple weeks ago. And so far on the channel, I've done about 6 or 7 live streams. And I've only ever played one game on that channel so far. What is the game that I have played on the Crosstalk Gaming channel? So we will now wait, and the first person to get it, the first person to get it will get it. Boom! There we go, Howley! All right, so I am writing. Good, nicely done. So the answer is PUBG, or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Battlefield's a good guess. I do like Battlefield quite a bit, but no, the correct answer is PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. So I'm going to write Howley, H-O-W-L-E-Y. All right, so I wrote that on the bag. Howley, congratulations, you won the first set of rack studs. Okay, so that's also a plug for that channel. If you guys have not subscribed and you're interested in watching me suck really bad at PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, go ahead and subscribe to that channel. I'm going to be live streaming on some PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds for probably 2 or 3 hours tonight. Okay, so just a little heads up if you guys want. And Jay, if you're around tonight, I'm happy to play duos with you. I played duos the other night with my Wisp guy, Brandon, and we came in second place. We weren't streaming it though. We were just playing. Together. So. And I say we came in second place, but really we were just incredibly lucky, and we jumped into a good location, and we didn't run across any other players until the very, very end, and then we were total noobs and got our asses killed. So, but we did make it to second place. Okay, so I'm hoping to repeat that again. The highest I've ever made it playing solo is third place. And guys, the second channel is it's just Crosstalk Gaming. It's got the same logo. You can't miss it. Just search Crosstalk space gaming. You'll find it. Okay, so there we go. So Howley, congratulations. I'm glad you won that. And again, just send me an email at info@crosstalksolutions.com with your shipping information, and I will send that out to you. You have to somehow prove that you're Howley. I might have to have you send a screenshot of your YouTube dashboard or something. That is if I get too many people that are trying to scam me out of these things. What console do I use? I don't have a console currently. My console, I have one. It's a PlayStation 3. I have not had a new console since PlayStation 3. I play on this computer that I'm talking to you guys on right now. Oh, that's a good point. Add it to the channel tab of your main channel. That would bring in people. Yeah, that's a good point. I will do that. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next question. This question is a little bit more difficult. It's not related to gaming. So are you guys ready for the next question? I will not wait for your response. You are ready. Okay, so second question for the second set of rack studs. The question is, recently, this week meaning, I have done, this is my third live stream this week. I'm trying to do live streams much more often. This week, I did 2 live streams earlier in the week where we were crowdsourcing the build of a free NAS server. What case did I choose for the free NAS server build? You guys are guessing at the questions before I ask the questions. What case did I choose for the free NAS server build? PUBG is not the answer. ECC is not the answer. Tom Lawrence is not the answer. You guys are just throwing guesses out in the dark. There's right now people frantically, boom, there you go, Node 804. That is exactly correct. So Kara Depth, Kerradeph, Kerradeph. Congratulations. You have won the second set of rack studs, and that is correct. It is the Fractal Design Node 804 chassis, and I am super excited to get that server in. I'm not going to be ordering it until after I get back from vacation, though, because I don't want it sitting on my doorstep while I'm not around. Okay, it does not come with the shark on it. That was photoshopped. I might try to put some face stickers on it, though. I was thinking about that. Maybe I'll do an angry Naz face on it, just like I did my microphone here. So I'll do something. I'm not going to customize it too much. That thing's going to be sitting in a closet and just being a workhorse. Walmart makes knockoff zipper bags. Yes, they do. Look at that. That's the Great Value Ziploc bag. Walmart makes knockoff everything, guys. What are you talking about? Sorry, Hector. Yeah, rack studs are going to someone else. Well, you know, stay tuned. We'll do another contest, I'm sure, the next time I do a live stream. Like I said, I've got a bag of these things, guys. I've got, you know, I just took about, 32 of them out of the bag, but this bag came with, I think, 100. Are they 100 in this bag? Quantity 100? It doesn't say. I think there's 100 in here. So, oh yeah, there's 100 units. So I will basically give these out, probably 2 per live stream, and I'm gonna try to live stream at least once every week or maybe every other week. What is the last piece of tech, software or hardware that completely blew your mind? That is a really great question, and I have an answer to it from literally just last night. So let me show this to you guys. I was out at dinner last night. I will put this over here and switch back to this view. I was at dinner last night. There's a restaurant in town that has a lot of beers on tap. So if you're not a beer drinker, this is probably not that interesting to you. But they were running an application behind their counter called... Oh, no, I'm not going to remember the name of it. It's on my iPhone. Hang on. This blew my mind. This absolutely blew my mind. Digital Pour. Digitalpour.com. I guess it's .com. Yes, it is. Here it is. So this application, let me zoom this in so you guys can see it. This application, this blew my mind. So this plugs in. They've got a little HDMI dongle that plugs into just the HDMI port on your TV, and it's just like a wireless access point, basically. So now your TV or multiple TVs can display the beers that you have on tap. But look at the information that you get here. So you get the beer, you get the alcohol volume, you get the type of glass and the color of the beer. You get how full the keg is displayed to you, right? So this is a fresh keg. This is an almost empty keg, right? And then you get all sorts of these different things. It's labeled out, by number so that you can just order, I want a number 3, I want a number 4. They also have a full iPhone app that not only shows you all of the restaurants in the area that have this digital pour as their, it's almost like a beer CRM, I guess you could say, that use digital pour, so you get like a map that shows you everyone that's using it in your area. But you also get the ability to look up the most current beers on your phone. So whatever beer they tap, it immediately shows up on your phone. And then they have a feature called On Deck, where it shows you all of the kegs that they have in the back that aren't tapped yet. And you can vote on which keg you want to be tapped next. It's amazing. It blew my mind. I was like, this is the best software. I have one client of mine that is a brewery slash tap house. And I'm going to bring this application down to them and just see if we can get them going on it. It also has a lot of social networking, right? So if you drink a beer or you comment on a beer at a particular location, it shows up on that location's screens in-house and stuff. It's just a really well thought out application. Just tapped indicator. color of beverage. And yeah, I mean, I just thought it was a super, super awesome way to display the beer. So it's CSS, I think, customized. So like this one looks like a little bit more customized page. Kona brews. I like Kona brews a lot. If you guys have ever tried those, they're really good. This is a company out of Portland, by the way. So here we can see it, like there it is on a few TV screens, right? So it just goes behind the screen and it just shows you like, look at all the fresh kegs they've got tapped on this one. Wow. Have I ever tried good German beers? I have. I don't get a lot of good German beers out here. You know, I live in Oregon, and so Oregon is a very big microbrew place. So a lot of the beers that I drink are local, but I do like international beers a lot. I just don't get the chance to drink them that often. We don't have any like Bevmos out where I am. Raspberry pints, I like that. So this integrates with different point of sale systems. It does inventory management. Look at all this sort of stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. Look, this is like the different types of beers, who's ordering what types of beers. So really full back-end system. There's your point of sale stuff. And then here's the computer stick that plugs into the televisions. Like, how awesome is that software? I just thought it was so cool when I walked in and saw it, and I was like, I got to know what that is. And so I'm trying to make them a client of mine so that I can go in and actually work on it and see it. Anyways, but they're based out of Portland, Oregon, so not too far from me. I live about 2.5 hours away from Portland. And yeah, really nice software, beautiful interface, and it looks like they've really got their shit together. Oh, there's Brandon. Hey, Brandon, I was giving you shout-outs earlier on the stream. Someone was asking some Wisp questions, and I told them that I would typically defer to you on that kind of stuff. So the Belgian beers are the best. All 1,000 plus of them. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. The beers that I like when I get a special beer, there's a really good company out of, I think, Maine called Allagash. And they have an Allagash White, which is one of my favorite beers of all time. And they also have a beer called Allagash Curio, which is brewed and then aged in old whiskey barrels. So it's got this like really nice like whiskey, or bourbon aftertaste. And it's super, super good. I have a microbrewery just down the road from me as well. It is the Rogue Brewery in Newport, Oregon. They are very, very good, and I've talked about them in the past. That's where I get my super cheap beers, because they have a garage sale about once a month. They give away cases of 22s for about 20 bucks a case. The good old times when Chris drank beers in the videos. I still drink beers in my videos, just not as often. I get on the live streams I do on the Crosstalk Gaming channel. I'm always drinking a beer. Beer as payment for work, absolutely. Yeah, listen, guys, any of those super chats that you're sending me to answer your questions, those pretty much just go straight to my beer fund. So thank you very much for that. Any other questions you guys have? Just let me know. Oh, here we go. Bob Brown. Hey, Chris, you are the reason I quit my job and started my own business. Thanks for the vlog about that. Absolutely, Bob, and congratulations on starting your own business. That's awesome. It's really, I love when people have the ability to do that. But one thing you have to know about starting your own business in IT, especially right off the bat, is that it is a ton of work. It is so much work. You're going to be doing more work than you have ever done before. Bob opened a burger joint called Bob's Burgers. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Hector, that's exactly why I couldn't see the coupon code for the for the Western Digital. You know what it is that I'm trying to do the live stream. I'm trying to watch the chats. I'm trying to look up something on the screen, and it's a lot of multitasking, and you know, sometimes I don't have the capacity for all that. All right, Tom Colgrove, 13. I just purchased an EdRouter PoE5 and an APA CLR. If there's a setting that most people forget to adjust or use with those items, what would it be? I would say, so two things. On the, thank you for the super chat, Charter. I keep calling you Charter. I think it's because of my Charter cable that I answered the question about earlier. Carter, thank you again for the super chat. You should do a tour of a large UB&T system. That's a great idea, and I will if I get the chance to do that. Back to the other question. On the EdgeRouter PoE, I would typically not bridge the I would not bridge the 4 interfaces. In fact, I don't really use the edge router PoE, mostly for that reason. When you bridge the 4 interfaces, you lose a lot of your throughput. This is a known issue with the edge router PoE. So personally, I would go with the edge router Lite and then out to something like the the US8 60 watt switch, which has a small amount of PoE on a little 8-port switch. That's probably, in my opinion, the better way to do it, unless you're running 24-volt devices like the AP-ACLR, in which case I would probably recommend upgrading to the Pro anyways, because that's a better access point than the LR. And it works with 802.3 AF, which is what most things are heading towards these days. At this point, I am very hesitant to buy any more 24-volt passive PoE access points. As far as the things that most people forget to adjust, or the one recommendation that I would have, is set your channel and your output strength manually. Okay, don't use the auto settings for those things. Do just run the tools to search for other competing access points in your area, and make sure you set both the 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz bands to specifically to the least used channels. I think Brandon would agree with that as well. On a lighter note, are you a fan of a sports team? No, I'm not. I'm actually not big into sports. I don't watch a lot of sports, and like if you ask me any sort of sports trivia, man, I'm the worst. Look, we can't all be good at everything, and sports is definitely a weakness of mine. I don't watch sports. I don't follow sports, and I don't know much about it. What do I use for content filtering? I typically don't. I don't get a call to do content filtering that much. Most of the setups that I'm working on are Ubiquiti, and there's no content filtering in Ubiquiti. If I was going to do content filtering with Ubiquiti, I'd probably use something like OpenDNS or some of the other competitors that are out there. Should I perhaps switch to a USG and a UAP AC Pro? I haven't opened them yet. I mean, it's difficult to say. As far as the the APAC Pro, yes, I would switch to the Pro over the LR for the reasons that I mentioned. Number one, 802.3 AF, and number two, it's just a better, stronger access point than the LR. Keep in mind, the LR, I very, very rarely use the LR, right? So the LR, the benefit to the LR is that it has a longer range. It has a bigger range than like the Lite, but keep in mind that your access point range is entirely dependent on the antenna in your client, right? So if your client can see the access point but can't send a signal back to it, then there's no point in having the longer range, right? So I prefer to go with the UAP AC Lite if I'm doing a very, very small, like under 10 user installation. And if it's anything above that, I go straight to the UAP AC Pro. Are you sold your Amplify, or are you sold on your Amplify? No, I gave the Amplify away in a contest when I hit 25,000 subscribers. I did not use it. I never used the Amplify for my own home in production, other than the couple days that I was testing it. I was not a fan of that product. I think I missed a question that I wanted to see. I know what I was going to say. So, Tom was asking, should I perhaps swap to USG and the UAP-AC Pro? So yes, on the UAP-AC Pro. As far as the USG, it totally depends on what you're going to do with it. If you have a very vanilla installation, then going with the USG is fine. If you want to do more VLAN work, if you want to have more control over firewall rules, if you want to have like user-based VPN and those sorts of things, then an edge router is going to be much more, is going to be a better fit than the USG. Okay, so how long have I been streaming? Let me look at my stream. I was planning on going for about an hour. Oh my god, I've been going an hour and 13 minutes. So we're going to wrap this up, guys, in about the next 15 minutes or so. So if you guys have more questions, I'm going to stick around for another 15 minutes, answer questions, and then I got to get to some videos that I have to record. So I need to try to do 2 videos today, so that's going to be the rest of my day. Light is okay for classic home use or not? Yes, I would say that the UAP AC Lite is perfectly fine for home use, assuming that you have a normal size home. If you have a mansion or something, you have the money to pay for the Pro anyways, and you're probably going to want multiple of them around the house. But my house, I don't have a huge house, and I was using a UAP AC Lite for probably about the last year, and it was perfectly fine for all of the devices and Netflix and stuff that I do in my house, the UAP AC Lite. I only recently, as in like about a week ago, upgraded to the UAP AC Pro, and that was more because I upgraded a switch to the US 860 watt, and I switched to 802.3 AF, and that's really the only reason I did it. And because I had an extra UAP AC Pro that I wasn't doing anything with. Is the USG Pro overkill for home use? I would say yes, it is. Unless you have multiple WAN connections, like more than 2 WAN connections or something like that at home, which most people don't. Do you still edit your videos, or have you contracted someone to do so? I still edit every video that goes up on YouTube. But I have videos that I do for corporate clients that I have hired an editor to do those videos. So I edit the YouTube videos, but I have a guy that is a really good guy. Another YouTube content creator, by the way. I love supporting other YouTube content creators. So I found a guy who now is redoing my website, and he is doing my corporate video editing. Where do you get your UBN t-shirts? When I first started doing videos on Ubiquiti stuff, Ubiquiti reached out to me and offered to give me 2 free shirts. And those are the only shirts that I have of Ubiquiti. Let's see. Does the Unify AP support Radius? I believe it does, yes. What's the max power that I can inject with the ERX? I think it's 24 volt. I think the ERX is only 24 volt passive, if I'm not mistaken. I don't use the ERX very much. I'm not a fan of that firewall. My 10-year-old Linksys router has more range than my uniform. I'm guessing you're meaning the UAP Lite. Yep. I mean, again, it also depends on placement, access point placement. It depends on, I mean, I've seen so many videos, like a lot of people do tweets and pictures and stuff that they put on the Twitter UBNT, or they copy, they tag UBNT in their Twitters and stuff. And like they'll put an access point like in the very corner of a room or something. And it's like your placement matters, guys. You gotta put that access point as out in the open and centralized as you possibly can. I also saw one on Twitter where they mounted the access point on the wall, but they mounted it upside down. Oh, Amanda's back. No one click on Amanda, please. We don't approve of spam around these parts. I don't think I can block her still. Oh man, no, I can't block her. Oh look, I'm signed out. That's why that's why I can't block. I'm signed out of chat, so I just have it up on the screen. Whatever, it's okay. What would you recommend for a large 3-story house? Well, again, it always depends on the situation, but for a large 3-story house, I would probably have 2 UAP AC Pros, one on the ceiling centralized on the bottom floor, and one on the ceiling of the second floor. Okay, that way the one on the the second floor can go up and then cover the second and third floor, and then the one on the very bottom, which is usually a basement and usually has like thicker walls, will just cover the bottom floor. But again, it also depends on the construction of the house, the layout of the house. I mean, I can answer that question all day, but I could be totally wrong based on your specific situation. Oh, here we go. Bob said, by the way, you were asking if somebody had the same issues with the cloud key. I did. And about 4 clients on 2, we had to reset the cloud key to default and start fresh from the backup. So I haven't had to do that yet, thankfully. And I do have good backups of that deployment. But it just does it goes offline every once in a while. I just have to reboot it, basically, pull it from power and plug it back in, and then it's fine. Have I found an alternative to PIA OpenVPN on the Edge Router series that doesn't slow down the connection significantly? No, I haven't. You might want to ask Willie that question, though. Willie is more of an expert on that than I am. Are you going to do videos of Air Max devices? I don't have any plans to do them. So the way I do videos is usually just whatever happens to come through my office. Let's see. I have and yeah, Brandon. I talked to Brandon about that because he's got all that kind of stuff, and Brandon has been contemplating the idea of doing some videos on the channel. So everyone, please give Brandon your encouragement. I would love to have him do some more advanced wireless ISP videos for the channel. I have a Meraki Z1 that I won in a raffle. My internet is faster than the 50 megabit throughput with the firewall it's rated for. Any suggestions of how I might use it? Nope, I do not have any suggestions of how you might use that. I'm not familiar with Meraki too much. I've worked on them a couple times, but that's about it. How about the wife factor when placing access points? Central is not always an option. That's true. That is very true. The second best thing to put it right in the second best thing to putting it in the middle of the ceiling is just getting it in the middle of the house, sort of somewhere, even if it's on a wall. And keep in mind also that Unify has the ability to turn off the LED, so it doesn't have to be this bright blue LED all the time. But one of the nice things, for instance, my UAP AC Pro, the LED almost serves as a nightlight at nighttime. It's pretty cool. I don't mind it. What's your view with the Sonic walls compared with the Edge or USG? Well, certainly Sonic walls have more functionality than a USG is going to have, but I am a VoIP guy, and Sonic walls are terrible for voice over IP. So I personally do not like Sonic wall firewalls, but they do have a lot more options than something like a USG. A USG is going to be more of like a like there's the USG Pro, which is more enterprise, but just a straight up USG, the small little USG, this guy. Pull the sticker off there. So the regular USG is more for like, I mean, this is like a Soho device. Sonic Wall is more of an enterprise device, I would say, than this is. Yep, Sonic Walls have all the bells and whistles, the content filtering, the intrusion detection, all that sort of good stuff. What corporate firewalls do you recommend? When I'm doing a corporate setup, I still use Ubiquiti, but I typically go with the USG Pro or the Edge Router Pro. What web-based zip phone? You mean SIP phone? Do you recommend to install on a website? I've never done that, so I don't have an opinion on that. But you'd probably want to be looking at some sort of web RTC phone. Hugo and Brandon are talking about Air Max devices. Do I recommend MikroTik? I do not. They're fine. I don't have a problem with MikroTik. I personally don't use them. Because I'm in the camp of Ubiquiti, but that's a Coke Pepsi thing, right? So some people love MikroTik, they love the interface, they love all of the things that you can do with it. I personally find MikroTik, I find the interface to be not super intuitive, and I think the model number, I've talked about this before, but like their biggest problem is their model numbers. It's very difficult to tell what MikroTik device is what based on the model numbers. So I'm just not a big fan of that. The learning the model numbers in Ubiquiti is not nearly as steep a learning curve. Do I like Coke or Pepsi? Good question. Pepsi. I prefer Pepsi over Coke. Well, do I? Pepsi's sweeter than Coke. Maybe I prefer Coke. I don't know. I'll take either. Doesn't matter to me. Have I seen the Ubiquiti network management system on the UB&T website? I have. I have seen that. I have not yet played with it, so I don't have any opinion on it yet, but I have seen it. I do like my beers, that's true. I don't drink a lot of soda. I drink water and coffee and beer, mostly. You blame, Chris, I blame you for getting the UAP Pro the other day and the Cloud Key. Okay. Well, I don't know if you would blame me for that. That's a really good setup. What about gateway antivirus UTM devices do you prefer? I don't have a preference on gateway antivirus. I don't deal with that very often. Mostly I'm dealing with voice over IP and networking stuff. I don't really get into the networking services that much. If I were going to start somewhere, I would probably start by looking at Barracuda. Just because I know they're solid, they've been around a long time, and I know one of the vice presidents at Barracuda very well. So I would start there most likely if I had a client that was asking me for some sort of gateway antivirus type of solution. Hey Chris, ever think of doing a video on DNS redirect? For instance, force OpenVPN on a network for content filtering. Maybe I might be able to do that at some point. I would like to do some OpenDNS type videos. If you guys, again, Willie's on this live stream, I believe still. Willie has done some really good videos on OpenDNS and stuff. So maybe was it OpenDNS? No, there was some other similar to OpenDNS type product that he was doing videos on. I might be able to get you some good pricing, Hector. I don't know. I know the guy. I don't know. I've never reached out to him and tried to get good pricing on Barracuda devices, though. What would you recommend mesh networking solutions for a full USG and AP Pro for someone who is non-technical and just needs a stable network that doesn't require constant rebooting? I mean, that's a really good question. I would probably recommend in that case that you just have someone build you a solid network, like Brandon here on the stream or myself. If it's such a strong learning curve, especially when you get beyond just a firewall and an access point. When you get into mesh and measuring the the air and all that sort of stuff, it becomes such a stronger learning curve that you really need to hire an expert for that kind of thing. And it's not that expensive. Like Brandon and I do deals for people like that all the time, where we set up, a firewall with a wireless bridge and an access point on the other side, which would take someone a lot of time to figure out how to do properly. But we set that stuff up in like an hour or two. Like it's not, once you know what you're doing, it's very easy to get that stuff done. So it's not as expensive to hire someone to do that stuff as you might think it is. Have you bridged traffic between routers, i.e. WAN to router 1 to router 2? The idea here is router 2 is a more hardened sandbox. So no, I have not done that, mostly because I would try to typically avoid double NAT situations. Oh, you continue on. Where servers on this side can only NAT to WAN, but no traffic from the WAN side can reach. Yeah, because I deal with a lot of voice over IP, Mike. So double NAT is bad for voice over IP. So whereas a double router situation might work like here in my home lab, or it might work in with anything that's not voice over IP, it's not a good thing to implement in someone's network typically. I mean, better just to have a really strong firewall and a good set of firewall rules. The way that I build networks is don't let anything in as much as possible. And with cloud-hosted services these days, it's much less often that you have to open up ports into a client's LAN. What firewall do I recommend? I mean, pfSense is fine. I like pfSense. I don't have a lot of experience with it myself. We've got a guy on Crosstalk's channel, Andy, that does the pfSense work for us. I like their Ubiquiti equipment, but if you're looking for a device that can do full, like all of the network services, like the antivirus and the intrusion detection, all that sort of stuff, that's Ubiquiti is probably not strong enough for you. For a free PBX setup, do you ever run SSDs? I mostly run SSDs for a free PBX setup. In fact, I have a pretty common scenario where I buy a phone system 60 and then I rip out the included 120 gigabyte SSD and I put in two 250 gig SSDs RAID 1. Have I taken... Oh, Jack Squat. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you very much for all the effort and work that you put into the FreeNAS stuff. I really appreciate it. Jack Squat asks, have you taken the Sangoma reseller training? If so, how much did you pay? I have not taken the reseller training. I am a Sangoma authorized reseller, and it's when I was in, I got in under a special like sale they were having or something, and it cost me $750 for the just to become a Sangoma partner. But that has paid for itself over and over and over again. It was one of the best things I've done in this business. I would recommend the free PBX or PB Exact training, like the 5-day training from Sangoma, because especially if you're not super immersed in the free PBX world, it's very, very good jumpstart primer to get you going. I've seen the course curriculum, and they cover literally everything in those 5 days. So it's very, very, very good class. What SSD do I recommend for? Yes, their training is expensive. I think it's like $2,500 or something. But you're right, it's pricey. But it's $2,500 for a 5-day course. That's not including travel expenses and per diem and all that. So yeah, it is very expensive. But if you're going to be in that business and you'd like a good head start on it, again, I can make potentially $2,500 on a medium-sized PBX deal. So, there you go. Which SSD do I recommend? I typically use Samsung SSDs. Nick H. writes, with the UniFi system, UniFi Security Gateway 4P, how do you route traffic between VLANs with separate NATs? For example, accessing a server on the VoIP VLAN. I mean, everything's open by default, so if you need to put in rules, you just have to. It's basically just the same rules that you'd have in the Edge router, where you've got every interface has 3 different sets of rules. You've got the local, you've got your in and your out, right? So you just set up your rules based on what needs to go where, and that's really all there is to it. Is UBNT training worth it? Again, certifications and training, that's all up to you guys. I mean, certifications and training do 2 things for you. Number 1, they give you a very good jump start on whatever you're getting certified or trained in. And number 2, the time that you're spending there, you are focused on that product. And that's something that should not be underestimated, right? The ability to just push everything else that you have on your plate away for however many hours or days that you're doing the training, and just focus on one individual thing. There's a lot to be said for that. So yeah, again, as far as like the training, is it worth it? That's totally on a case-by-case basis. If you think it's worth it, it's worth it. Oh, Eric says, Sangoma is offering the 5-day class where you don't get to keep the hardware for $1,500, FYI to the group. So I think they have one that's $2,500, but you get like a phone system 40, a couple of phones, and I think even an SMB or something? SMB? No. Session Border Controller, SBC. Sorry, I'm getting my acronyms mixed up. Okay, well, guys, I was only planning on going an hour. I've now gone an hour and a half. So thank you very much, everyone who joined in. We're going to call it there. Boom. So again, thank you guys so much for joining the live stream. I'm planning on doing live streams more often. The next one will probably be maybe Tuesday, or maybe in a week after I get back from my vacation, or a week after that. So again, thank you guys so much for joining the live stream. 174 people at peak, it looks like. That's awesome. I love the fact that you guys joined me for this and you asked your questions, and I hope everyone learned something from this type of sort of Q&A session. I know I learn stuff every day, mostly from you guys commenting and telling me that I'm wrong in my videos and stuff. But like I said, every comment that I get, especially constructive ones, I absolutely appreciate all of them. And for the 2 winners of the rack studs, Howley and Kara Depth, make sure you send me your information to info@crosstalksolutions.com. I will probably have you screenshot your YouTube dashboard so I can verify that it's you. But other than that, just send me an address, and we will be going from there. So thank you guys so much. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. This is mostly for people watching after the fact. And if you are not subscribed to Crosstalk Solutions or Crosstalk Gaming, make sure you subscribe to those channels. Speaking of Crosstalk Gaming, I will give myself one more plug. I am planning on getting online tonight at about 8 p.m. Pacific time to do, maybe 7 p.m., somewhere in there, to do a PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds live stream. So if you guys are interested in joining me for that, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube Gaming Crosstalk Gaming channel, and enable those notifications so you can see when I go live. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.